And people always talk about corruption on the bench. They think it's judges who take money. Now sometimes our clerks, our registrars, interpreters. I remember my own interpreter went and told people, you see, when you speak your language, I tell the judge, you know, what you have said in English. So if you want anything to see the judge, you pass through me.
These are some of the things that we are talking about. Ibrahim, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana. The name is Abraham.
Abraham Amalba. Yes. Abraham Amalba. Abraham, I'll just start with here. You know, here we see a judge saying that, look, my interpreter was out there taking money from people. He wasn't aware of it. But the thing is, when we find out, what next?
What we've heard from Justice Apau only goes to confirm the perception that we've had of some corruption within the judiciary. And so what he has said is nothing new to some of us. What I do know is that normally when cases of this nature are reported to the appropriate quarters, there's always some investigation. The Chief Justice has on several occasions dismissed some judges, and even some court registrars have also been dismissed, and some are even standing trial. It will interest you to know that some judges have also been put before the dock. So the direct answer to your question is, when matters of this nature come up and the Chief Justice or the Judicial Secretary is aware of the matter, they put together a committee that will investigate the matter. And if it turns out that this person was actually engaged in acts of corruption, some punishment is exacted.
The first thing anybody will say is that, well, if you know of any judge who's doing that, produce the names. I mean, who would come out and produce the names? It is such a sensitive and delicate matter that, I mean, you won't come out and say, oh yes, you know, yesterday, you know, this is what happened and I gave A, B, C, D, but we all know it happens. I mean, so in such a case, you know, how do you move forward to solve it when nobody wants to come forward with a name?
Nana, in the cases that I have cited, people were bold enough to come out. But I agree with you that most of the time, it's difficult to get people to come out, own up, and say that I have either corrupted the judge or the judge asked me for money. It is also important to understand the laws of Ghana, that the giver and the taker of bribes are all guilty of the offense. So you, the one giving the money, and the recipient have all flouted the law. So it will be difficult for the one who gave the money to come out and say, I gave them, because then you'll be caught by the law. So it is important that if we actually want to fight it, then we need to relax that aspect which says that the giver is also as guilty as the receiver, so that we can use the giver as a prosecuting witness or engage in what's called plea bargaining, and then use him to prosecute the one who received. But as it is now, you have the giver and taker being guilty of the offense. And so equally guilty of the offense. And the laws do not allow you to bribe a public official, and the public official is not allowed to also accept bribe. So until we are able to move beyond that, where the giver of the money is also criminalized because of the act, then it will be difficult to get people coming out. But in the cases that I have mentioned, sometimes the investigations will reveal that probably it is the judge or is the court clerk or is the lawyer who misconducted themselves. And because the judge or the lawyer, and you see there are so many players in this industry. Sometimes when we mention the judiciary, people just think it's the court and the judges. No. We have the lawyers, we have the judge themselves, we have court officials, we have the police, and the police can be looked at in two ways. Police as prosecutors, and then police as bodyguards for the judges. And they are also close to the judges, and somebody can use them to get to the judges. So there are a gamut of people who are involved in the business of adjudication and in the industry. So when we're talking about the judiciary, let's not limit it to only the courts and the judge. Let's expand it to include all court officials, officers of the court, and that will include lawyers, that will include court clerks, that will include registrars, and all those who work in the court.
You see, because just like Justice Apau said, there are most cases, or I mean, there are some cases where, you know, the judge might not even be aware, and whoever these key players will say, look, let me take the money, I'll hand it over to him so that you get justice. And because the justice will be handed over from the judge, so you assume that, well, he got it and he didn't do the job, or he got it and then he did the job.
Now, you see, what Justice Apau said is true, that sometimes behind the judges, on the blind side of the judges, some collusion could take place, and the judge will not be aware. And because of the desperate nature of clients, because they feel that they must win the case, when anybody comes close to them and say, oh, I have influence, I'm capable of seeing the judge, they begin to pander to those persons' whims and caprices. So, yes, I agree. And I've heard cases in that direction where the judge is not aware. I am also aware of cases where you would find a litigant going to the lawyer and asking the lawyer whether they could go and see the judge. This is initiated by the litigant. Sometimes too, you find lawyers themselves also asking whether the client can give some money to go and give to the judge. So, Justice Apau's statement on one side is true. What is also true is that clients themselves would also, because of their desperate nature, would also even kickstart the discussions. And if you are not careful, you may fall in for it.
Is it because we don't trust the system?
It is because of the fact that the justice delivery system is so cumbersome. That is one. Two, it is not friendly in terms of the atmosphere in court. It is also expensive. It drags on for a very long time. So all these things play into people wanting to have a shortcut to ending the whole process, because that is the last bastion for justice. And so if you get it wrong there, or you don't get what you want there, then clearly, probably, that will be the end of it. And most of the time, it is about litigation in respect of something which is dear to you, which is of value to you, which you consider as, if I lose this thing, that is the end of my life. And so the stakes are very high, and the courtroom itself, unlike ADR, which is friendly, the courtroom itself, the atmosphere there is not one that you can describe as friendly.
Now, as a state, if we look at the whole judicial system, from infrastructure to staff, the general look and appearance of it, you know, I mean, I've only been to court once in my life, you know, and the place is not even nice. You know, the wooden chairs, dirty curtains. There was only one air conditioner which worked, which was where the magistrate or the judge was sitting. The rest wasn't working. I mean, it's like our attitude to that institution probably doesn't even speak well of it.
That is true. If you go to some of our courts, if you go to the Cocoa Affairs, the buildings there are dilapidated. Sanitary conditions are very poor. You don't even find a place to attend to nature's call if you want to do. So I agree with you, but it depends on where you want to look at it. You would be looking at it from the point of view of the Cocoa Affairs Court. I can also look at it from the point of view of the commercial court, where we now have modern facilities, and gradually, the judiciary is phasing out these dilapidated structures. When you look ahead of Cocoa Affairs, there's a new court complex coming up, and that is where Cocoa Affairs will move to, and then Cocoa Affairs will now be used by, I think, Senate or so. So it appears Senate are putting up that one, and then they will take over the space there. And so, yes, I agree with you currently, but there are attempts to give the institution a facelift And these are some of the things that I can cite.
The reason why I say that, I attribute it to, you know, a brilliant child learning under a tree and an average child learning in a very plush area. Your thinking and your spirit and your ability to do good, you know, increases. But when you come and, like you're saying, I don't even have anywhere to attend nature's call, I don't think I would put in 100%. And probably that's the results we are reaping.
I agree that the environment could also have an effect on the delivery of justice. That I agree. Sometimes it can be very hot in there, and most of the time you have heard that a court could not sit on a high-profile case because the lights went off and the place was too hot. And so consider places where there are air conditions already, and yet they can't sit, let alone those places that are like hand coops. And so I agree that that could affect the judge's own judgment and the way he does things in court. Because in some of the courts, you go to the district courts, the circuit courts, you see the number of cases, the files, you know, they are so much that they run up to 50 cases a day, some 100 cases a day. Wow. And it's difficult for just one judge to be able to decipher what to do. So I agree that, but we need to open more courts, recruit more judges. And in the past, the story was that it was not lucrative going to the bench. I'm told that it's now getting better and people are beginning to move in there. So if we get more of those people going in there, I'm sure the situation will be ameliorated.
So moving forward, how do we limit it?
Limit which one?
Well, the judiciary ranks number 3 in corruption. Anytime they do this, you know, statistics or the perception index, you know, they rank pretty, you know, pretty bad, you know, among the index.
Yeah. The Chief Justice has done a number of things in terms of instilling discipline. I must congratulate her for that. I indicated in my intro, she has, I know of, and there was one judge that has been dismissed. And for me, when I heard the name, I wasn't surprised because I have appeared before that judge before. And what the judge asked me and my client, because that was in camera, that, counsel, what did your client bring to me? So when that judge was dismissed, and I knew it was that judge, I said, oh, I knew it will happen one day. So the Chief Justice has put up some mechanism to ensure that we weed out corrupt judges, corrupt court officials, and then also lawyers who have misconducted themselves would be referred to the General Legal Counsel for disciplinary action to be taken against them. And I'm aware of some lawyers who have also been referred to that institution. Don't forget that I belong to 4 lawyers who made a point that there's corruption in the judiciary some time ago, some 3 years ago, and were blacklisted by the Judges and Magistrates Association, even though we're not given a hearing. But I have to announce that this has since been put aside. We've smoked the peace pipe, and we are forging ahead. What is important for me is to put in place mechanism for reporting corruption. I know there is a complaints unit within the judiciary in the building there, but I think that we should remove it from that institution and place it somewhere, because when somebody sees another person entering there to make a complaint, you'll be targeted. So let's take it out from that institution. Let's take it out within the premises, place it at the sub-metro areas, you know, or district assemblies, so that people can easily walk here, because the district assemblies are more friendlier than the court premises. So if we do it that way, people will be more ready to go and report such cases. But when you put it within the building, again, people watch, they see, and if you go in and come out, they will know that you've gone to do something. So much as I agree or I appreciate the attempt to provide a complaints unit, I think that it should be removed from the entire edifice of the judiciary and placed at a place where people can easily go in and come out.
What percentage, wild guess, are we talking? 60% bad? 70% bad?
I must tell you that there were some statistics or research done I know the Parliament did some research on, or came out with some findings on corruption in the judiciary. Some civil society organizations have done same. Ghana Integrated, Ghana GII have also done same. But we've not been able to zero in on percentages. What I do know is that it is not as if every judge, it is not as if every lawyer, and it's not as if every court clerk is corrupt. That I must make abundantly clear. That when we talk about corruption in the judiciary, and just as Justice Apao said that it is lawyers or some lawyers, indeed, it is not all lawyers who do that. But even if it is one too many. And so we should endeavor to stamp out that one person. And so, in my view, to be candid with you, I don't see it as affecting most of our judges. I see that it will be particular individuals. And because that institution is supposed to be incorruptible, even if it is one, it makes the news. That is the point.
You see, the reason why I say that is the few people I know who have had cases in court, the few people I know, including myself, have come across where either the lawyer is asking that, listen, I need to go see the judge, behind the bench, or the judge is demanding this behind the bench. There's too many of these stories with people, who have cases going. And I admit that maybe not everybody is doing it, but maybe too many are doing it.
You see, let's just take your scenario in which you said a lawyer said that I need to go and see the judge.
Yeah.
Now, we are not sure whether that lawyer is not telling a lie.
He's telling a lie.
Because the judge may not have even come into contact with him on that matter.
I'm telling you that the judge never came into contact. Because
Exactly.
the day we went to court, the case had already been cancelled.
Exactly.
And my lawyer wasn't aware.
Exactly.
So by all means,
So he's telling lies.
Yeah.
So when you then take that one and say that that judge is corrupt, you'll be making a mistake. But you need to also understand that we are not only just talking about judges, because the judicial setup is made up of so many people. And so if it is not a judge, it may be some. And so I do not want us to say, is it the judge who is more corrupt, or is it the lawyer, or is it the court clerk or the registrar? I just want us to accept that and not play the ostrich that there is corruption. But what we then do? What we do is to try to stamp it out. That, for me, is the way to approach it.
I'm going to take a break here. Now, we are talking about, let's say it's perceived, but these are people who at least can even afford to go and see the judge behind the bench. How about those who can't even afford it, and they still need to go through this justice system? How are they surviving? Stay tuned. Well, we're discussing a very sensitive matter, corruption within the judiciary, perceived or reality. But indeed, as my brother said, we can't bury our heads in the sand and pretend it doesn't happen. But you see, we are now talking about people who can maybe pay for their legal fees and then pay for backdoor fees. But Abraham, you are in the business. How about those who are unable to afford? How do you go through the system?
No, it's not as if going through that system is the acceptable way. Going through bribery, using money to influence judges, lawyers, it's not as if that is the normal way. For you to say that.
Maybe I didn't phrase my. I'm talking about all things being equal, perfect, no bribery.
Yes.
Just those who can afford trying to get justice in Ghana. First of all, you need to afford a lawyer to be able. How are they managing to get justice? Okay,
so you are talking about.
Leave bribery aside. Nobody's bribing anybody.
Okay.
How the poor, is able to access justice in Ghana.
Justice in Ghana is a bit on the high side, because you go to see a lawyer, and most lawyers do not do pro bono cases.
Most lawyers are commercial lawyers. They are driven by commercial motives. So from that angle, yes, it's expensive. Now you go to file. There's a filing fees. That is also exorbitant. It has been increased. Beyond that, you would have to facilitate the bailiff to go and serve the document. So when you look at it from that angle, from the point of starting to see a lawyer, consultation fees, to the legal fees, to T&T, to court and back, then you go and file your case. That is also money there you have to pay. So basically, it is not easy for the poor. But our system has devised a mechanism that would rope in the poor. We have the legal aid scheme. Now it's a board, legal aid board, where indigents, those who cannot pay, those who cannot afford legal services, can go and procure the services of the legal aid lawyers. But I must admit that the legal aid lawyers are not everywhere in Ghana. They are only in some, most regional capitals, and all the regional capitals, and some districts. So again, they are rich, it's limited. And so still, you still have some people who are outside the net. But it is expensive because we do not have, but we have some NGOs also that provide legal services free of charge. And so if you're able to access these civil society organizations, NGOs, then they can also help you to fight your case in court.
You see, it brings back to my question about our attitude towards justice. Is it because those who really manage justice can't afford it and therefore are not empathetic towards those down the ladder? Because, you know, there are certain areas where even the nearest court, you might not be able to afford the transportation to the nearest court. Even if the court was free, you know, to get your 3 cedis or 6 cedis so that you can travel to court and back, they might not even have it. But I don't know what we are doing to get judicial access to, the reach of every Ghanaian.
More courts are being opened. I know, and in this some of these areas, you'll be talking about district courts. I've noticed that the Chief Justice is opening more of these district courts. But again, availability of resources. And so if the resources are not there as a nation, we cannot do so much. But the intention is there. You can see clearly the vision of the judiciary that they want to extend some of these facilities to the hinterlands. Until we are able to cover a lot of these grounds in terms of the provision of district courts, until we are able to do that, this scenario you have painted will still exist, where moving from your home to the court is a distance, and that alone can be discouraging for you to even want to take up a legal action against somebody. But like I indicated, I know the Chief Justice is opening more of this district court, but it is slow. It's not catching up with the space of time and then the population increase.
The other thing is the courtroom is very frightening.
Yes.
It's very frightening and it's very, very distant. Can there be some education so that we don't see them as scary? I mean, the black, the wigs, and the big English and the Latin. It's all too much for the average man. And therefore, if somebody came to you and said, hey, the judge says this, you're just inclined to look, let's take it and let's get it over and done with. How do we make the system friendlier?
That is to say, how do we demystify the courtroom, and how do we demystify
and the personnel,
the legal system? You'd want to know that in recent times we have stopped wearing our wigs.
Amen.
In recent times. So there has been some directive that we could do away with that one. You should also understand that the profession is a colonial relic. The profession is traditional in nature. The profession guards against introduction of new things. It is too conservative and that kind of thing. So you would see some of these things around. That is the roping, the wearing of black, even though the courtroom is hot, will still be in that. But what I think we should be talking about is how do we make the room, the courtroom, friendly
Because when you go in there, there's tension. I'm sure you watched the proceedings in the Supreme Court, how tense it was anytime the proceedings were captured live. So, is it possible to also, as it were, you see, the formalities in the courtroom are so much. Can we make it largely informal, such that if you need to draw the judge's attention, you don't need to necessarily file an application? Can a simple letter to the judge, commence some hearing? Sometimes lawyers delve into technicalities, and then the judge has no other alternative but to throw away the case because you didn't come properly. They will tell you that you didn't come properly. But yet, the person who is a victim is still suffering. But because that person's lawyer has not met the technicalities, his case is thrown out. So can we make it a bit informal and not to insist on the procedure and that the procedure must be right before? Sometimes
so you have a case.
You have a good case. You have a good case, but because you have not packaged it well, you've not come properly according to the rules, you will not be heard, and that for me is worrying.
The Americans were able to loosen their system, and they're still getting justice and moving ahead. I know we don't want to destroy your profession or break it down or anything, but again, like you're saying, I mean, it's taking quite a bit of time to take the wig off, which, I think we are glad. But in the interest of justice, how soon do you think we can get these procedures loosened so that, people can get justice? Because without justice, there's anarchy.
I can tell you that at the district courts, the formalities there are not as strict and stringent as the High Court. At the district court, the judges there try to be a bit informal, and so they could even allow litigants who don't have lawyers to present their case, and then the judge will make a determination. I think that is what we need to encourage more at the higher courts, because as we have indicated here, getting lawyers and hiring the service of lawyers is very expensive. So is there a way we can, but to be honest with you, you can go to court without a lawyer. But because of the formalities, you are better off getting a lawyer because you don't know the rules and procedures in court. But at the district court, the judges, the magistrates there are inclined to listen to the litigants viva voce, orally, without necessarily asking them to put pen to paper and come by motion or any application. We need to have some of those things done at the higher court. Again, sometimes letters of administration, you see, when somebody dies without leaving a will, you have to go to court and secure letters of administration to administer that person's property or distribute the property. Is it possible to just have the person, those beneficiaries, go and see the court registrar, for the court registrar to verify whether that person is actually dead, and then without necessarily going to court, and then to see whether we can fast track the process, and so if we are able to do that, then we'll cut off the lawyers. You don't need a lawyer to do such things. And so these are some of the things that I think that we can do to limit the expenditure that a client has to incur.
I mean, listening to you, it goes to your submissions that because of the process and people want to shortcut it, it makes the temptation to,
yes.
seek a shortcut.
Yes, because it is so cumbersome that and it's done everywhere. Wherever you go to, and you go to DVLA, there are guru boys. You go to wherever, there are people standing by to take advantage. So it's the same way to, when you go to the courts, sometimes you can even have court clerks telling you that, look, there's no need going for a lawyer. I can talk to the judge. When the judge is not aware of this, when the judge is not, and the judge has not asked the court clerk to come out and solicit for bribes for him, and yet you have the court clerks doing that. So I am of the view that if we are able to streamline some of the processes, then the courtroom will be a friendly place for people to walk in and walk out without necessarily stressing themselves out and then wanting to look for shortcuts to be able to procure justice. I think that is very important.
Educate me. So if I have a case, let's say Cocoa Affairs, and I decided, no, I know this case inside out, and so I want to stand there and explain to the judge why I think I have a case, am I not allowed to do that? Or?
Oh, no. I have indicated to you that you are not compelled. There's no law that compels you to go for a lawyer to prosecute your case for you. Indeed, the matter is your matter, and you decide the way you want to go about it. So you can go to court, file the necessary processes, go to court, and defend your case, and ensure that your case is heard. The judge will not throw you out because you have no lawyer.
But will they pardon you because you have no legal background, or they will still treat you as you must know the legal background?
Now, this is how it is. The law entreats the judge to act as a lawyer for the one who has no lawyer. The law entreats, the Legal Profession Act requires that anytime somebody appears before the judge without a lawyer, and the other side has a lawyer, the judge would have to play that role for the one without a lawyer. So, because they are legal and technical matters, it is the judge who must guide you through and then ensure that you are on the right path. So the judge will play in that dual role as a judge and also assisting you to prosecute your case. So that is a requirement that the judge must do that.
Does it happen often?
Yeah, it does happen. Sometimes to the annoyance of those who have lawyers, because they say that, why is it my fault that he has not taken a lawyer? Why are you? And because when it happens that way, and some don't understand, they begin to think that the judge is taking sides, but they don't know that the law enjoins him to be able to guide the one without a lawyer. And so it is always to the annoyance of the other side, as if to say that the judge is supporting the other side.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I just want to find out, in this case, what would the judge do when he comes to passing his judgment? Was he, going to favor the one he defended or the other one? At which point does the judge then switch and become neutral? Stay tuned. Very interesting. So you go to court, you don't have a lawyer. The systems demand that the judge then plays a double role, babysit you, and then, take care of the other one as well. When it comes to passing the judgment, what does the judge say? Well, I really looked after you, but you don't have a case, or, what then happens?
In this type of scenario that I've described, don't get me wrong, it's not like the judge would support the other person without a lawyer. What a judge would do is to, like you indicated, guide you, because these are technical and legal issues, and you are a lay person. But when it comes to judgment, what judges do is to apply the law to the set of facts. So if the facts as presented in the court and are available, then the judge would apply the law to those set of facts. If it turns out that you are guilty, even though he acted in a way as to ensure that you are within the law and you do not go out of the procedure, he will pronounce judgment against you. And I've seen that on several occasions where judges have found such persons guilty, and there are times that they also win the case. So if your case is bad, it's bad. If your case is bad, it's bad, and there's no amount of legal gymnastics that can, as it were, help you out. It's just that because you have no lawyer, and because the courtroom is a place where formalities are as it were, what is being done there, you as a layperson would not be able to know all the legal steps to take. So that's why the judge would act for you. But it doesn't mean that automatically he will rule in your favor.
On a serious note, there should be a big PR campaign now to try and reduce the perception. You see, because there are too many incidents, even with the Supreme Court cases, hidden tapes coming out with this. They're all allegations, but they just don't speak well of an institution which you said should be absolutely, corruption-free. What should they do you know, to try and rid the system of these stories?
I have said on another platform that we shouldn't see that institution, the judiciary, as another place for employment. We should see it beyond that. So that we need to do background checks on people who want to go in, particularly to be judges. Jessica Powell said something today. If you are a bad person, you continue to be a bad person if you are a judge. You'll be a bad person if you are a pastor. So it is not the system that makes you bad, but it's your nature. And if your nature is that you are corrupt and you get into the profession, you'll be corrupt. So we do not have corrupt judges. We do not have corrupt lawyers. We have corrupt people who have become judges. We have corrupt people who have become lawyers. Mm-hmm. So that is how we should look at it. And why I say that it shouldn't be an avenue for just any employment is that because that institution is the last stop for justice, we need to do some background checks. We should, if they are already doing it, we should intensify it to know the character that is going in there to either be a judge or and secondly, too, if I were a judge, I would desist any attempt by anybody to give me a gift before, during, or after the judgment.
But it's our culture. I mean, we thank people. It's part of who we are.
Yes.
We like to say thank you. Let's say after the case, you know, there's a goat, there's a cow. I got my land back, you know, my ancestral land. I nearly lost it. You know, you tried the case very well. Maybe the other judges all said it wasn't mine, and you looked at it. So there's a goat for you.
Good. What we are now trying to deal with on this platform is perception. How do we eradicate that perception? And the only way to eradicate that perception is not to allow people to fuel the perception the more. So that the judge should not equate himself to the chief like you, where when you take that ship, it will be seen as customary. And so the judge should divorce himself from that and see himself or herself as somebody who is looked up to be upright. And any external factors that would make him look bad in the eyes of the people, then he should desist from doing it. And that is why I'm coming from that angle. Because it's going to be difficult for any justification to the effect that, oh, this is just a gift to say thank you for the hard work done. What I also want to add is that we should not always look out for the bad things in the judiciary. We should also celebrate the good ones, so that if we are aware that a particular judge has proven to be upright, then there's a need to celebrate that person. Even a citation will do. A citation will do.
You see, would that be, it's like we're saying that well, if a judge does his job, let's test. But that's what they were meant to do anyway. Are we saying that the system has gone so bad that those who do what they're supposed to do have to be glorified?
No. We celebrate our heroes. Indeed, I know 1st July, the Senior Citizens Day, and people are celebrated. It is in that vein that we should desist from just paying tribute to people after they die. Why can't we also pay them some reverence if they are still alive? And that for me is using the carrot and stick approach. Because if we have complaints now, we are not saying that it's so bad that we should be doing that, but if we have complaints now, how do we ensure that the bad ones would learn from the good ones? Using the stick and carrot approach, we should clamp down heavily on the bad ones, but we should also find time to praise and reward those, or even just acknowledging them, for me, is one way to go.
But unfortunately for the judge, anytime you say judiciary, that's the first thing that comes
to mind.
And because the justice system, as you put it, will start from the police, the clerk, the lawyer, and everybody, it doesn't matter at which point I get stuck. At the back of my mind is the judge. So I think they are in such an unfortunate position when it comes to the judicial system. And they probably need to work double hard to try and save face. And I don't know how. When he sat in his office, hasn't seen anybody. The clerk has taken money and said, look, I'm going to give it to him. I mean,
it's not only unfortunate, but it's unfair. Because, and you can't blame people from thinking that way, because like you rightly said, anytime the word judiciary is mentioned, the first person you think of is the judge. And again, they are amongst these people that we are talking about, this gamut of stakeholders that we are talking about, the lawyers, the court clerks, they are the head of that group of people. Judges come first before lawyers, then you can talk about the court officials, and then the litigants. So it is right if people think about them first. But it's not fair to always limit our accusation to them. But again, because they are the head, the responsibility lies on them to also prove upright. And I think that much will depend on what they do. And like indicated to you, the Chief Justice has done a number of things. Some judges have been dismissed. Some judges have standing trial. I know of court registers. I also know of accountants within the court system who have embezzled money, and then all these things, they are facing the music. So we are getting somewhere. It may be slow, but we have to also intensify our complaint system. And I have proposed that let's take it out from the courtroom and send it to, say, the district assembly or sub-metro area.
Abraham Amaliba, he's a legal practitioner, so, you know, he's speaking from experience, and thank you very much. Tomorrow on Personality Profile, we're speaking to Manasseh Azori Awene. You'll be absolutely blown away with his story. And if you see him in person, you wonder, is this the guy who's giving everybody such grief? He has a beautiful story. And stay tuned tomorrow for Personality Profile. And as I say tomorrow, we'll be back to do it all over again. Brother, thank you very much.